The moment you stop bending your spine to fit broken rooms, something shifts that people can't explain. It's not confidence the way social media sells it. It's not ego. It's alignment. You start moving in a way that doesn't apologize for existing. You don't argue with nonsense. You don't chase approval. You don't beg to be understood. That alone rattles the wrong people. The ones who thrived when everything was loose, unclear, and negotiable feel threatened. Not because you attacked them, but because you stopped participating in their mess. You're no longer flexible in the ways that made life easier for them and harder for you. When your behavior lines up with basic truth, honesty, and self-respect, chaos loses leverage. That's when the pushback starts. Side comments, dirty looks, subtle resistance. This isn't coincidence. Order is uncomfortable to those who benefit from disorder. You didn't become aggressive. You became solid, and solid people are hard to move. What really gets under their skin is how quiet the change is. There's no announcement, no explanation tour. You just stop doing things that drain you. You stop over-explaining decisions. You stop reacting to every jab. Silence replaces defense. That silence is not weakness, it's refusal. Refusal to keep arguing with people who never argued in good faith. Refusal to keep proving things that should be obvious. This kind of restraint exposes motives fast. Those who respected you all along adjust without drama. Those who needed access to your energy start acting strange. They test boundaries. They escalate. They try to provoke the old version back into the room. Don't take the bait. The moment you explain yourself, you step back into their game. Staying quiet forces them to reveal how dependent they were on your reactions. Social pressure ramps up right after you stop playing along. People frame their discomfort as concern. They ask why you've changed. They suggest you're being distant or cold. What they're really asking is when you'll go back to making things easier for them. That pressure can feel heavy, especially if you were the one who kept everyone comfortable. Standing firm here feels lonely. The room doesn't clap when you grow, it goes quiet. That quiet can mess with your head if you're used to feedback. Sit with it. This is where self-respect replaces validation. You learn that approval was never neutral. It was conditional. Once you stop paying that price, the silence becomes peaceful instead of threatening. You realize you don't need a group's permission to live clean. Toxic behavior hates structure. When you start living by clear standards, manipulation has nowhere to hide. The jokes stop landing. The guilt trips don't work. The emotional swings look obvious instead of confusing. You don't have to call any of it out. Just move differently. Less access. Less engagement. Calm responses. No explanations. Toxic people spiral when they can't hook you. They get louder, meaner. Or suddenly fake nice. None of that is growth, it's panic. Panic shows up when control disappears. Watching this without stepping in is uncomfortable, especially if you've always been the fixer. Don't intervene. This isn't your mess to clean. The chaos was always there. You just stopped absorbing it. Staying calm while others lose control isn't about being superior. It's about not letting their instability live rent free in your head. Calm doesn't argue. Calm doesn't defend. Calm watches. When you stay steady, people feel exposed. Their behavior has nothing to bounce off of. That's when patterns repeat louder. Promises get broken. Masks slip.
This is sorry.
This is information. Don't rush to react. Let it stack. Let reality do the talking. You're not trying to punish anyone. You're just not interfering with consequences anymore. That's a big shift. It's also why things around you start correcting themselves without effort. Once you stop explaining yourself, your life simplifies. Not because problems vanish, but because you're not adding extra ones. You don't replay conversations all night. You don't draft imaginary responses. You don't chase closure from people who avoid accountability. Decisions get cleaner. You say no earlier. You leave sooner. You don't stay where your values are bent to fit someone else's comfort. That clarity saves energy. With that energy, you build something real. Better routines, stronger habits, healthier connections. The people who benefited from your confusion notice the upgrade and feel threatened. That's not your issue. Growth exposes contrast. Contrast makes insecure people uncomfortable. Letting life unfold without trying to control outcomes feels risky at first. You want justice. You want acknowledgement. You want someone to admit they were wrong. That rarely happens. Waiting for it keeps you stuck. Moving on without it feels unfinished. Then it feels free. You stop tracking who's watching. You stop caring who understands. You focus on what's in front of you. Work gets done. Progress shows quietly. That quiet progress hits harder than any speech ever could. People notice after the fact and don't know how to process it. That confusion is not your responsibility. There's also a shift in how you see opposition. Not as enemies, but as indicators. When someone reacts badly to your boundaries, it tells you everything you need to know. When someone gets angry at your calm, that's information. When someone collapses because you stopped carrying them, that's clarity. You don't need to judge it, just access. Less trust, more distance. This isn't bitterness, it's discernment. Discernment keeps your life clean. Clean living doesn't mean perfect. It means honest, and honesty has weight. Over time, internal stability becomes your default. Chaos still exists around you, but it doesn't live inside you anymore. You don't wake up tense. You don't carry dread into the day. Problems feel manageable because you're not fighting yourself on top of everything else. That's when life stops pushing back so hard. Not because you're special, but because you're aligned. When actions match values, friction drops. You're no longer split between who you are and who you pretend to be. That split was exhausting. Ending it changes everything. Living by basic truth changes how conversations start and how they end. You stop bending facts to make people comfortable. You answer plainly or not at all. That alone filters your environment. People who rely on confusion get restless when answers are simple. They try to complicate things, poke holes, shift topics. You don't follow. You stick to what happened, what was said, what you're willing to do. No extra layers. No justifying tone. This makes some interactions shorter and others awkward. That's fine. The awkwardness is doing the work. It shows who can meet you on solid ground and who needs smoke to operate. Over time, the ones who thrive on vague talk stop coming around as much. They feel exposed by clarity. The ones who stay appreciate not having to read between lines. Life gets quieter because fewer misunderstandings are created. Problems still come up, but they're handled directly instead of dragging on through hints and side conversations. That's how dysfunction loses oxygen. It can't stretch itself out when there's nowhere to hide. Integrity shows up when nobody is watching. It's how you act when being consistent costs you something. You don't gossip even when it would win you favor. You don't promise what you can't deliver just to look good. You don't pretend to agree to keep access. These choices don't make you popular in messy spaces. They make you predictable in a good way. Predictability based on honesty unsettles people who depend on chaos. They test you to see if you'll crack. A little pressure here, a small lie there. If you hold steady, they move on. Integrity isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It just refuses shortcuts. That refusal changes the room. People stop trying certain things around you because they know it won't land. You didn't threaten anyone. You just made it clear what won't work. Over time, this creates a reputation you don't have to defend. Your word carries weight because it's rare and reliable. That's not inspiration. That's math. Restraint is what keeps truth and integrity from turning into noise. Knowing when not to speak matters as much as knowing what's right. You don't jump into every argument. You don't correct every mistake. You don't chase every misunderstanding. This frustrates people who want reactions. They push harder, thinking silence means weakness. It doesn't. It means you're choosing where your energy goes. Restraint keeps you from getting dragged into side battles that don't change anything. It also lets situations play out long enough to reveal themselves. When you don't interrupt, patterns repeat. Words don't match actions. Promises expire. This information is valuable. You use it to decide where to invest and where to step back. Life feels less chaotic because you're not trying to control everything. You're observing and responding only when it matters. That's how messes resolve without you burning out. Social pressure loses strength when you stop reacting on cue. There's a moment when people realize their usual tools don't move you anymore. Jokes don't get laughs. Guilt doesn't rush you. Urgency doesn't speed you up. That realization creates tension. Some will label you difficult. Others say you've changed. What they mean is the old access is gone. Don't argue with that. Arguing invites negotiation. Standing firm ends it. This doesn't make you isolated forever. It makes your circle smaller and sturdier. People who respect limits stay. People who needed flexibility without accountability leave. The pressure fades once the adjustment period passes. What replaces it is a calmer social life. Fewer emergencies. Fewer emotional demands. More straightforward interactions. That's not luck. That's boundaries enforced through behavior instead of speeches. Projection shows up when people can't get a read on you anymore. They fill the silence with stories. Motives get assigned. Intentions guessed. This used to bother you because you wanted to be seen clearly. Living by truth teaches you something hard. Being understood by everyone is impossible and unnecessary. You let the projections exist without fighting them. Fighting gives them energy. Ignoring them lets them die off. People who matter will check facts. People who don't were never going to be fair. This approach saves time and stress. You stop managing reputations. You manage actions. Over time, reality corrects the record better than any explanation could. Those who project it eventually adjust or drift away. Either way, your peace remains intact because you didn't build it on their approval. Toxic behavior doesn't handle consistency well. It depends on flexibility, exceptions, and emotional leverage. When you live clean, those tools fail. Someone tries to stir drama and gets no reaction. Someone pushes a boundary and meets a firm no. Someone plays victim and gets silence instead of comfort. This isn't cruelty, it's clarity. Toxic patterns escalate when they're not fed. That escalation looks ugly, but it's short-lived. Without reinforcement, the behavior collapses. You don't have to expose anyone. Their actions do that on their own. Staying calm through this phase is key. Calm keeps you from becoming part of the story. You watch from a distance, you adjust access, you protect your space. Over time, your life becomes less crowded by people who drain it. Self-respect replaces validation when your standards are clear. You don't need applause for doing the right thing. You don't need reassurance for setting limits. Decisions feel heavier at first because you're owning them. There's no group to hide behind. That weight turns into confidence once you see the results. You sleep better. You think clearer. You trust your judgment. Validation still feels nice, but it's not required. This independence changes how people approach you. There's less manipulation because there's less neediness to exploit. You're not chasing acceptance, so it can't be used against you. Life feels steadier because your worth isn't up for debate every day. Staying calm while others lose control becomes normal when you're aligned. You don't get pulled into emotional storms as easily. Someone raises their voice. You don't match it. Someone panics. You slow down. This contrast can make people uncomfortable. Let it. Calm sets a pace others must either match or leave. It also protects you from saying things you'd regret. You respond instead of react. That difference matters. Responses are intentional. Reactions are automatic. Choosing responses keeps you in charge of yourself. That's the only control that actually works. Letting situations expose themselves takes patience, but it pays off.